What's up, everybody? Friday Command, we are here. We are going to preview this game against the Raiders this weekend. Our Commanders take on the Raiders at Northwest Stadium. Will we bounce back? We have a special guest in Grant Paulsen from 1067 The Fan. Make sure y'all tune in and stay tuned. We are rolling out now.
It's the Reedie Zee show. Reedie Zee show. It's the Reedie Zee show. Reedie Zee show. Reedie Zee show.
Good morning, fellas. How y'all doing? You're on mute.
Good morning. I'm doing well. How you doing, Grant?
I am very well. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. We greatly appreciate you. We've been following your work for some years now, so it's definitely an honor and a pleasure to have you be a guest on our show. And yeah, we looking forward to a great interview, a great discussion about our team.
That really shows our age, because I remember when Grant was kind of like the kid correspondent when he did the little video back in the day, and just following you because I'm a big Caps fan. I remember when you were on the pregame coverage for the Caps and stuff when it was CSN Washington. Just following your career over the years, man. You do an awesome job. Love the show with you and Danny, man. Y'all just doing a fabulous job. Just want to say thank you for all that you have poured into this community as it relates to this sports market in general.
Well, that means a ton, honestly. Thank you for saying that. I'm lucky. These are the teams I grew up loving and caring about, and I get to talk about them every day. And I always joke that it beats working for a living. I've stolen a line, though, more recently from Ernie Johnson from TNT, from Inside the NBA. He says he's got a get-to job, not a have-to job. And so that's the line I like to use now. I've got a get-to job that I get to do. So I really enjoy it. And the football season is the best time of the year. And it's week 3, and I'm happy to be here with you guys talking ball.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Pleasure. So yeah, let's talk about it from rolling out. The biggest topic around, this week is the status of Jaden Daniels. It came out after the game. Well, not after the game, a few days after the game, that he had the knee sprain, and all week we've been talking about, will he play and whatnot. Today is the day we find out, officially, if it'll be Marcus or if it'll be Jaden. Dan Quinn talked about, ramping them up, getting them through the strengthening and getting them to, run around the speed test and all that. So we'll find out later today what that happens. But, around this injury, how confident, Grant, are you in Mariota if he has to take the hound and lead us out on Sunday?
Yeah, so a couple things, Z. One, I'm very confident that they could beat the Raiders with Marcus Mariota running the offense. Now, everyone points to last year. He was fantastic. Came in against Carolina after Daniels got hurt and broke the rib on, I believe it was the opening drive, but in the first quarter on the 46-yard run across midfield in the awkward landing. And he hung 40 with that offense the rest of that game. If you remember, he came in against Dallas at halftime in Week 18, Game 17. And when he did, Washington's offense, on a day where they didn't have to win necessarily, they'd already wrapped up the playoffs, so Jaden got sat at the half just to make sure he'd be ready to go for the postseason. He came in and balled. I mean, he was incredible, and they stole the game, and he was 15 of 18 and lit it up. I mean, he was nearly perfect in that game. So last year was great. I just think their offense was playing at a higher level last year, and so at a dependent position at QB, I think more things were going well around him. And I do think he runs the offense well, knows the offense, and can get him in and out of things as a veteran that he sees pre-snap that'll be beneficial to the cause. But I don't expect him to wave a wand over everything and just make it okay. What I'll say, though, is I think that because they've had 10 days rest, haven't played since Thursday, and now they're at home and don't have to travel, and because the Raiders are playing a Monday night game this week and then traveling cross country, short week, right, with the late night Monday night game later than normal, and then flying to DC cross America, on 6 days rest. I just think that discrepancy is so significant, and I like Washington's chances to beat them with Mariota for that reason primarily. But I'll say about today too, really quickly, like there's a good chance that they just rule Jaden out if he doesn't practice at all, and they say, he's not hitting his markers, he can't get there by Sunday. I wouldn't be surprised though if he does something on the field, doesn't matter what it is, and they can list him limited if they don't kind of keep the suspense going into the weekend and make it closer to a game time decision. This staff, and most staffs to that point, as you guys know, like to just keep the mystery alive as long as they can.
Yeah, absolutely. That was definitely how it happened last year. I remember, with the rib and having to make a reel about, they were saying, people saw Jaden going in and out of the bubble and practicing and things like that. So definitely, it's always a chance, like you said, with this staff, and I love the way they operate and keeping things under wraps. And I was, I kind of caught Lake Lewis when he was talking around that the whole fact that the knee sprain got out, the people, the reporters around the team, like, saw the limps and everything after the game, but they wasn't putting it out there, and then it ended up getting reported by national media. So it ended up leaking later on in the week, but they keep a tight ship, and I love that. Much different than previous years.
Yeah, I believe it was Grant that actually kind of
from them.
Yeah, I believe it was you that actually kind of came out first. I believe I remember seeing a tweet that you were saying that you spoke to some people and they were saying, he had got the MRI and things of that nature.
Yeah, so Friday, I think, is when you're referencing. I had heard first thing in the morning, pretty much, but Friday early afternoon, late morning, whatever it was, I put something out that suggested that they were concerned about the knee, is what I'd been told. They sent him for an MRI, which is abnormal. You only really do that if you got some concern. I was told there was some pretty legitimate swelling as well. And so I don't know that they thought it was like long term. I don't think that was ever the case, but they wanted to see exactly what they were dealing with. And then I think pretty quickly they knew, all right, a normal person might be compromised and trying to rehab for the next couple of weeks before they're all the way back. The good news was, right, they had 10 days before their next game. So I don't think there was any reason to rule him out. There still really isn't any reason to rule him out because this guy has proven, A, he's got an unbelievable pain threshold in Jaden Daniels, and B, that, he's gritty. Like, he's going to play through pain. He's kind of a dog. Like, he played a month with a broken rib and threw a Hail Mary with a rib that hurt when he was breathing. So, I mean, I think he's proven that part of it too. So I don't think they wanted to limit him or tell him, hey, you're not going to play that far out. But my understanding was right away they understood it would take a lot to get him on the field this week. And they kind of got with him over the weekend, from what I gathered, and kind of sat down and put together some type of a plan that they outlined as to how they thought it would work to get him back on the field. Now, I don't know the exact details on if that plan was, let's sit this Raiders game and get you ready for Atlanta or what. But I think in Daniel's case, he bought into the plan for the most part and is playing some ball here. I know that outline had him doing very little at practice this week, as you've seen Wednesday and Thursday. But yeah, I wasn't able to corroborate it was a knee sprain because, as you were saying, Zee, and I give them a lot of credit for this. I covered Shanahan every day on the beat for 4 years. He was the king of we're not letting any information get out there. He thought that other teams were scouring beat reporter Twitters and reading every story in the Post and what have you. And there's no real benefit to letting information get out there on injuries. So I don't blame them for the way they operate, but they're good at it, man. That they're not going to confirm a whole lot in the way of what's going on with their players. I'll say that.
Yeah, staying on the injury beat, Austin Eckler was lost this past Thursday with the Achilles injury against the Green Bay Packers. So what are your thoughts on the running back room as it's situated now? Ja'Cory Crosby, Merritt, Bill has moved up the depth chart. Jeremy McNichols, and then you also have Rodriguez, and then they made a signing this week of Chase Edmonds. So, where do you think that room stands going into this game against the Raiders? Because a lot of the fans and the fan base was calling for more running They thought Cliff got away from the run in this pass game and kind of got too pass happy. It was too many attempts passing. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so first things first, I do think the game got away from them a little bit via Green Bay because you guys know from watching that thing, it was close in the scoreboard. It didn't feel that way. It felt like they were down, I don't know, 14, 17, 20 points for a lot of the night, right? Even though they never really were. And so I think Cliff called the game that way. He called the game like they were down by a lot, trying to get something going and kind of get them back into the mix. So that's number one. It was inexcusable for Bill only to have 4 carries and to be doubled up in carries by Eckler pre-injury, right before on the week before where you're averaging 8 a pop and you're number 2 in the NFL in rushing yards over expected per attempt. And I mean, he had one of the most effective, efficient games of any running back in the league in his NFL debut. And the response is to come back the following week and he gets all of 4 carries. I mean, that's not going to work. So I don't think that was the plan. I think you'll see a lot more of him moving forward for sure. As far as the Eckler injury, the way I think it goes, and I think it's going to be fluid and they'll ride the hot hand, but initially, I think the plan will be Crosby Merritt heavily on first and second down, more of him in that way. Then you'll have Jeremy McNichols doing a lot of the Eckler stuff, at least initially. You guys saw Cliff Kingsbury talking about them needing to see more and get more comfortable, essentially, with JCM as a non-ball carrier. What does that mean? That's pass pro, that's running routes, that's knowing where blitzes are coming from and helping a quarterback out and things. So when that happens, you'll start to see more of the third down, 2-minute, 4-minute stuff for him. But in the meantime, I think you'll see the veteran McNichols get some of that Eckler work. And then my guess is, we know Rodriguez will now be active, but I think he'll get in where he fits in and probably be what McNichols was in the first couple weeks, which is to say he'll play on like a third of the snaps or whatever, and he'll get a few carries if they're salting the lead away in like a 4-minute run the clock down scenario. The one other point I'll make is, I don't know if you guys realize this because I just saw this morning for the first time. McNichols actually out-snapped Crosby Merritt in Green Bay. That's
Mm-hmm.
crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like that should not happen as and Rodriguez role as the third back. So I think they've just got to recalibrate on how hungry and urgent and kind of desperate they are to involve Crosby Merritt because I think he can help them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, I was going to follow up with was kind of like, what are your thoughts on the offensive line, how it's constructed? Because I've been Green Bay, it didn't look really good. I mean, given that's a better defense than what people are giving them credit for and a better team overall. Because going into the game, I kind of thought we would not necessarily have our way with them, but I thought it would be a little bit different. But they pretty much just shut us down all the way across the board. I felt like it was a conservative play call. I felt like Terry ran a lot of curl routes, a lot of underneath things of that nature. I feel like we really didn't take a lot of shots down the field, but, obviously, he's under siege. So how did you think that offensive line kind of, with the rookie at the right tackle is kind of like looking at this moment?
Well, it was a rough game for the O-line. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I'm not going to make it a referendum on their big picture chances to be good this year. Like as a team, or specifically as we talk O-line here, I don't think this means the offensive line isn't what we think it's going to be. But they did not have a good night. There's no doubt. I think a lot of that is a Green Bay thing. Let's give them credit. They get paid a lot of money. They got a lot of dudes that got drafted in the first and second round. They got a world eater who could win DPOY and Micah Parsons, who by himself had 9 pressures. 8 of them came, not 8 of Micah's pressures particularly, but 8 total pressures came off of right tackle via Josh Connerly. He's got to be better. Brandon Coleman's super banged up. You guys saw he wasn't practicing midweek still. So I think he's playing through something. And then Allegretti, who I thought played a very good game in week 1. It wasn't at quite the same level against the Packers team that, remember, they shoved it on the Lions in week 1. Like Detroit's been hanging 40 on everybody for a year. They just hung a 50 burger on Chicago and Ben Johnson this past week. And in week 1, they couldn't manage 3 yards, and get anything going at all. So I think Green Bay's that good. I think they're the real deal. They're the number 1 defense in the league right now for a reason. And I think that if you're a Commanders fan, while there's no doubt it was an ugly game for the offensive line, I think you kind of chalk that up to short week, not a lot of prep time, elite defensive front, and you got. But I got to see more moving forward like you guys do from Josh Connerly, clearly, who I'm very confident in ultimately being a really good player. I still love that pick. but he's been thrown into the fire against some of the best pass rushers in the league, and it's been a struggle clearly. And then on the interior, I think they got a few things they got to sort out, and maybe that comes, with health as we go here.
Yeah, I had posted. We ended up posting your clip from Take Command with Logan, speaking about the offensive line and Connolly Jr. and Wiley and whatnot. I'm sure hoping that John Bates gets to play, because he can kind of be that that sixth lineman, just that extra help, in pass pro, as well as of course what he is to the run game. But what I mean, like the how I mean, it's been coming out that he's very significant to this offense. Like, how are you feeling with John Bates and his status? I seen that yesterday he kind of was practicing on the side field. Have you heard anything, or is it anything else other
Yes.
than that?
So again, they're coy, right? And there's just not going to be a lot of intel until today, when we get the Friday practice report. But I'll be very surprised if John Bates plays this weekend. I do not expect him to. That would be a really fast recovery. He's dealing with a groin, and I just what I was told kind of early in the week from what I'd heard is it doesn't look great for him to get back on the grass this weekend. He is a super important player, as you just acknowledged. I think he helps in pass pro a ton because you keep him in and kind of some of the heavy big stuff they run is like a third tackle almost, right? But then on top of that, I think the run game is maybe where you're going to miss him more, and I would even say, the most, because Logan makes the case, and who am I to disagree with him? He thinks he's the best run blocking tight end in football right now. But I mean, he's as good as it gets in line when you keep him in the box running like 12 personnel or something with Ertz at the line of scrimmage. So I do not think he plays, and I do think that actually proves somewhat costly. I'd like to see if that's the case. Maybe you spread it out a little bit, run more 11 personnel with three receivers, and maybe not try to use multiple tight ends as much, just so you get a defense out of base. Now the Raiders this season, twice as much as any other team in the league, have run base defense against spread looks, which is odd, and I don't think it's going to be what they do all year. I think it's kind of a quirky, like small sample size thing, but that would be really interesting. Like if you spread them out and they're actually trying to run a traditional base look where they're not running, nickel dime defense or something, I think you could chew them up, out wide throwing the football. So we'll see how they choose to defend that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, and then moving on to like the defensive side, we had a huge loss with DJ Wise. We in this week we end up bringing in, a guy that we drafted back in 2015, Preston Smith. Me and Reedie, we have a thing what we call, we kind of favor certain players. So Reedie called me the other day and said Preston Smith is definitely a Z guy. I kind of downplayed it, but he's definitely a Z guy. I always felt like we should have kind of kept him. I know at the time when he went to Green Bay, they gave him a ton of money, so we couldn't. We ended up letting him walk because of that. And he played some great years in Green Bay. Last year he had a little stint with the Steelers, so it was happy. I'm happy to see him back in the burgundy and gold. What does this signing mean to you and that defense? What do you think he's going to ultimately bring? Not sure if he'll be out there Sunday. Hope so, but what do you think he brings?
I think he brings size. I think he replaces some of what they lost with the Dietrich Wise, which is what I was worried about when he went down. They don't have that kind of size and that kind of physical, just big presence on the edge. And that's what they want to be. Like, look at their offseason plan, right? They go out on the defensive front and they bring in Javon Kinlaw, who's the size of like a small house. And then they bring in Eddie Goldman, who's the size of like a slightly smaller house. And, they just kept going big, 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 right? Wise, the whole point of him is like, okay, give us a little pass rush as a bonus. We'll take it. But when you're on the field, we're not getting run onto your side. Like you're setting edges and you're turning guys, funneling them back toward Bobby Wagner. Because I think what we found with Wagner over the last year when you watch him is that if you have guys that kind of turn things back toward him, he's incredible. Like, he's not going to miss any tackles. He's going to be right there in the box. He's getting dudes on the ground. But it's about kind of letting him play in less space, if that makes sense, on the interior by getting guys coming back toward him. And I think that's what Wise was going to do so well. So that's my hope for Preston Smith. He's big. He's got length. He's got those long arms. I want him to be really good against the run. And if he can help you as a pass rusher, great. I don't necessarily think that's the priority or a major need. You got to find a way to do that with other guys, whether that's Dorrance Armstrong or Frankie Louvu, or, they'll cook something up in the parking lot. But their plan this offseason was to get better against the run. Adam Peters said that on my show on 106.7 The Fan. And so far it's worked. Wise was a big part of that, though.
Yeah, I know it's only a 2-game sample size, but Joe Witt Jr. said yesterday in his presser that, they were out of position on some plays because guys didn't have their eyes in the right, discipline or whatever to play on the back end. After the game, people were saying that, Marshawn Lattimore was getting cooked. And, on our rewatch, because we were in Green Bay for the game last week. So on our way back, we kind of like rewatched the game because, when you're live, you kind of don't see everything as the TV copy or the All-22 copy. So like, what do you think that this defense needs to do to kind of get back on track to the way they kind of came out and had everybody saying, wow, after week 1 in New York?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it's not like they gave up explosives on the ground. They still kind of stayed to their core principles up front in that way. I mean, they gave up yards to Josh Jacobs, but that's a really physical, mauling front, and you'll take them running for 2, 3, 4 yards here and there and trying to be ahead of the chains. I think, number one, they got to cover tight ends better. I mean, what Kraft did to them should be illegal in like 23 states. Like, you can't let guys catch and run for 60 yards without getting touched in the seam. And I think that's what Joe Witt's talking about, by the way, those type of breakdowns with the eyes and the discipline, because that's zone and just people being on the right page. And I think he's basically talking about seeing things the same. Like, if I see something and we got 3 guys to account for, then I need you to see it the exact same way as me without us talking to each other. That's what good defense is, right? So that would be my first thought there. I think they got to maybe just do better communicating. And I don't even mean just verbally, but pre-snap. I see Will Harris is a guy, a lot of the times it's like pointing things out and getting dudes in the right spot, which I really like on the back end. But frankly, one of the big problems against Green Bay was they didn't get to Jordan Love at all. They had the 2 sacks. It's like over the course of the year, if you get 2 sacks a game, that average will have you somewhere in the middle of the league pretty much. But my problem with that is I think they hit him 3 times. So 1 time other than the 2 sacks in that football game. That is just not close to enough. And you guys saw it. Like, he just had too much time constantly. So I don't know what they do to create more pressure. But in game 1, they got it with 4. They didn't have to send anybody else against the Giants. I think the number is the top of my head, but I think what I remember from week 1 was they got pressure on 42% of dropbacks against Russell Wilson, but they only sent more than 4 29% of the time. And that math tells you I don't need to send more than 4, right? Well, in this game, they did. They couldn't get home. And that was with the Packers missing 2 linemen, which is bothersome. Now, I will say the Raiders are not as good up front, in my opinion. When you watch them, and I'm sure you guys have, both their tackles give up a lot of pressures. I believe they're number 2 in the NFL in pressures allowed at the tackle position. So that's ideal. And they may be without their best offensive lineman who hadn't been practicing this week on the interior. Still waiting on an update on that. But it is very possible that this is a pretty good matchup for the defensive front in terms of pass rush.
Yeah, definitely agreed there. Terry McLaurin, can this be a breakout game for him? I know in my mind when I hear Marcus Mariota, I hear and I think and I see Terry is going to get fed the ball. In Marcus's previous times at the Hound, he made sure that 17 got the ball through 2 weeks. Terry's been kind of limited. The route running has been kind of seeming a little limited, especially like last week with the play calling. There was a lot of curls, comebacks, like a lot of short yardage, no really deep balls and things like that. So you know, I are you confident in him potentially having a good game? Because like I said, I think Marcus is going to make sure that he gets his opportunities.
Yeah, I think so. I think honestly, it's funny. It sounds like I don't think much of the Raiders, which probably isn't true. I think they're going to be frisky in like 7, 8 wins this year, maybe even,
Yeah.
a decent 8-win team that's playing for, relevant games in December. But, the way they've played these first couple of weeks, I do think there's a lot of possibilities in the passing game against them. You saw it against the Chargers in primetime this past week where they gave up the 60-yard touchdown where Quentin Johnson got behind everybody. Like they, in zone, Logan did a breakdown for us on Take Command, but they've struggled a little bit with some of the in-breaking stuff, getting the right depths, as drop-in linebackers and stuff. So some of those like Debo Samuel deep overs, or you think about like dig routes in that 17-yard area, like I think that in-breaking type stuff. Now that might be Debo eating, but there's no reason Terry can't get back to majoring in some of that. Like that's how he made his money in this league, man. So I'd like to see him heavily involved there too. But if you told me right now, like Terry goes out and goes like 7 for 112 and a touchdown this week or something, like that would not surprise me at all against this team. It might be Debo who ends up getting to post those numbers. Like I don't know that two guys get to, but I do think one of those two receivers ends up having their biggest game of the season. Obviously, Debo went 7 for 77 at home in the first game against the Giants. But either way, I think from a yardage standpoint, both of them might surpass their season totals, or their season highs, I should say.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
definitely,
was
definitely.
telling Z, based off of the film, it looked like Green Bay was in a lot of either cover one or they were in a lot of cover three. But it was kind of like my eyes were playing tricks on me. Like I knew what the coverage was, but it was like they were doing some funky stuff with it.
They were.
It was a lot of little trickery and stuff with it. Like you said, Terry kind of made his hay off of running digs and posts and things of that nature. We haven't really seen too much of that. So I guess, Cliff was trying to catch him in the seams and stuff like that on those little short routes. I mean, I feel like we couldn't get any offensive continuity or we couldn't continue drives and kind of, stretch the field. Well, not stretch the field, but stay on the field. So what other offensive matchups are you, confident in this week besides Terry? If they go out there and they kind of shut Terry down again, with Noah Brown going down, like what guys are you confident in besides Debo? Because it looks like it's just Debo and the guys at this moment.
Yeah, I think there's room in the quarterback running game for them to have some success. I think like they could hit him with read option a few times and pick up some first downs. And, if it's Mariota, he can scoot a little bit, right? We've seen that both of the games that he's played. He had I think it was like a 30-yard run against the Cowboys. And when he played against Carolina, did some good things on the ground as well. So it's funny, like regardless of who plays, I guess if Daniels plays, it's crazy to say this because of the knee, but maybe you tune that down a little, tune that out or turn that down a little bit, that fader, because you don't want him running around like on design stuff because he's going to run enough and take risks as a scrambler. But if Mariota goes, I actually think they can turn up the quarterback run stuff a little bit and maybe get him, outside, on some QB run calls. I also think Zach Ertz just generally is going to be heavily involved in a fixture in terms of targets and catches, middle of the field. But I think that is an area where this defense is exploitable. And we just talked about it, but I think they're going to hit some big plays in the passing game. Like, to me, this feels like a day where your quarterback should come away having thrown for a couple 100 yards plus. And, you should be able to move the football through the air. Doesn't mean you can't run it. You won't run it. You got to stay balanced. I just think they're going to present those opportunities more than the Packers game, obviously. And I would even say I feel better about their chances to have a good offensive game against the Raiders than I did against the Giants, because my assessment going into that Giants game was that the Giants defensive front was going to wreak havoc, and they didn't really. Kudos to the offensive line. They actually won that matchup, which I did not anticipate in their season debut, but they did. The one guy, obviously, that we haven't mentioned is Maxx Crosby, and that matchup with Connerly is really worrisome. And so they're going to have to help him. And frankly, that's up to Cliff Kingsbury. That's up to whoever plays quarterback. Like, you have to help the kid a little bit. I thought they
Yeah.
did a way better job insulating him against the Giants than they did against the Packers. And when Micah Parsons is the matchup, I don't really understand why.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And hopefully this game we can get those time management, the adjustments together, like the coaching side of things. It seemed like they've been a little rusty as well. Hopefully we can get our confidence back on going forward on some of these fourth downs, because Lord knows, Matt Gay is not someone you want to be depending on from 58.
I was
So
just going to say something about that.
yeah, like, so what do we what why can't we find a kicker? Like, what's
It
what's
doesn't
going
seem,
on?
yeah, it does not seem as hard as it's made to look around these parts. But there are teams that just go into this cycle, right? Where it's like you do or you don't. You throw darts at the wall, and eventually it becomes a 10-year answer, and sometimes it doesn't. I actually, maybe I'll end up being loud wrong on this. I loved the Matt Gay addition when they made it. Um, I thought that was a really, really good signing. Now, they spent, by the way, the highest 1-year guaranteed amount of money on a
Cheap
kicker
money, yeah.
in the history of the league. Nobody's ever given a kicker. I think it was like $4+ million, something like that, that they gave him outright. And so you look at that and you go, well, wait a second. You better be right on this because it makes it hard to get out of this thing. Now, maybe you could just eat money and do it. But I really like Gay. I thought he was a really good kicker for a while. I still think he's going to have a good season, and I'm on record predicting he'll be the only guy that kicks for them this year. But it didn't get off to a great start. I mean, he missed
Yeah.
2 kicks in week 1. Obviously, week 2, or I guess he missed 2 kicks rather in week 2. He didn't have to kick any field goals in week 1. But, they're both long, but here's the problem. Like, I was talking to someone about this week. They're like, oh, well, they're both longer than 50, right? And in the NFL anymore, 50's 40. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
you guys watch ball every Monday, Thursday, Sunday like I do. These dudes are lining up, and 57 and 58 you now expect to make it like
Yeah.
over half the time. And for Washington, it feels like anything beyond 48 since the preseason has been, for another team like the equivalent of 58. So they got to figure that out for sure. I guess the one concern is this has been a problem before he got here. He missed, I'm pretty sure I have the numbers right, something like 14 kicks over 2 years before coming here, and 11 of those misses were on 50 plus. So, like, he's been money inside of 50. That's cool. But in this league, you got to be able to hit 50-yard field goals.
Yeah, and I think coming in the scout, like, kind of the fan base, why we were kind of upset was because Dan Quinn all last year, we kind of went for it at a high clip on fourth down. So in this game, we're thinking like, okay, Matt Gay comes in being known as a guy that's really not beyond 50. So anything under 50, he's pretty much money, like, statistically, if you look at his numbers. So like, why weren't we trying to go for it more often than not and trying to, we didn't have any rhythm offensively. So why not try to gain more rhythm and stay on the field? I feel like we were in kind of favorable, spots on the field or whatever where we could have went for it, but then he chose to kick the field goal.
Yeah, one of those I think was 4th and 4 from the 40, which is like the textbook go situation for them last year. Like, that's not, we got to a point end of last year when they were 23 of 26 on fourth down, I think it was, where 4th and 4 from the 40 was like 4th and a foot from the goal line. Like, you just knew that was a go for situation. So for him to decide, let's let our kicker, who didn't prove over the last couple of years, like to your point, he's got 50 plus in club in the bag, kick from 58. Before he kicked it, it just seems strange. And then you miss it. It's not revisionist history. You kind of go, okay, yeah, I'm not surprised. But yeah, I agree. People that were frustrated with that decision, I totally understand.
Z, you good?
Yeah, nah, that I agree. You got anything else, Reedie?
No, thank you, Grant. We appreciate you coming on. Tell the people where they can find you. They should already know. I mean, but if they don't, let them know.
I appreciate you. Yeah. So listen to the show every single day. We're on the Fan on 106.7 in and around DC. The Grant and Danny show from 2 to 6:30. We stream on YouTube and the Odyssey app. You can listen wherever you are. So it's a cool way to listen to the program, pause, rewind, whatever. You mentioned Take Command. I'm doing that podcast with Logan Paulsen now. Really enjoying that. He's so good at breaking down the tape, and it's like a real X's and O's, nuts and bolts Commander show that I've really enjoyed to do. That's a little bit of a change of pace from the daily radio show with Danny. And then, yeah, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, at Grant H. Paulsen. So if you want to follow me on social, you can do it there.
Hey, and also I was telling Reedie, I said, damn, Grant Paulsen and Logan Paulsen, no relation?
No relation. I mean, people forever. I used to, now it's partially my fault because I used to play into it a little bit. I was on the beat when he was playing. And in fact, I started on the beat his first year, undrafted free agent out of UCLA. So I would always joke like he was my older brother or cousin or something.
Yeah.
But I think people really thought it was. But no, like his ties are from, his group's out in California. We have the same spelling, which is rare because most people are SON or SEN. So we've always joked about it. Like one year I was texting him when we were taking family pictures or whatever. Hey, what time you showing up? But yeah, we're not related. So I like to joan on him that he didn't bring the potato salad to the reunion or whatever. But yeah, no relation.
Wow, that's what's up. And Logan, man, after he retired and he kind of got into this side of things, like that dude knows some ball. The way he breaks down film and comes up with his info and things like that. It's definitely motivating. I hope to get there one day, but like he knows football.
And he does it in a way where he doesn't confuse the viewer, where they can kind of follow along. For like the novice fan that doesn't necessarily know the X's and O's of, what an A gap, what a B gaps, things of that nature, or 12 personnel, all the different personnel groups and stuff like that. Like he does it in a way to keep them along with him. So yeah, he's doing awesome.
Oh, he's a sharp guy, and that was how he survived in the league. He would tell you, I think. I mean, he's kind of self-made. He was an undrafted free agent who played for a decade. And he did that because he was very mentally sharp and aware and kind of, coach on the field in a sense, and an extension of staffs that, they knew he was going to be in the right spot, doing the right thing at all times, and was a good blocker as well. He had a little John Bates to him. But yeah, he's been very, very cool to work with and just pick his brain. And, I'll definitely learn a lot doing that show with him.
Absolutely. But yeah, man, thank you, Grant. Like I said at the beginning of the show, it's an honor and pleasure. Hope to let's stay connected, and we would definitely love you to come on the show again. It definitely was a great one, and keep doing what you're doing, man. It's very motivating, and like Reedie mentioned earlier, thank you for all you do for this community, this team, and let's go Commanders.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Hopefully they get a win this weekend. I appreciate you guys. Enjoy the game.
No question. You too.
That's Grant Paulsen from 106.7 The Fan. Also, the Take Command podcast. You can find him on the Odyssey app, anywhere that you get your podcasts.
Yep. So yeah, if you haven't already, make sure you like, share, subscribe at ReedieAndZee on all platforms. We are on the road to 2K on YouTube. We're on the road to 7K on IG, and I'm not sure where we are on X. We're pretty low there, so go over there and follow us as well. We're on TikTok. We're everywhere. So stay in tune with us, and any predictions, Reedie? Any score predictions? I know you're not really the prediction guy, but what you got?
I say 24-14 Commanders. 24-14. I think my gut's kind of telling me that JD5 will sit this week out. I feel like it's going to be the Marcus Mariota show. And I think he'll be able to move the ball, like Grant said, maybe taking advantage of some of those quarterback runs when things break down, get out of there. And spread the ball around. I think he's a very capable backup. So I think that's what the score will be. But do you want to hit anything else? As far as defensively, keys or anything of that nature?
I mean, keys. I would say as far as like defensively, I want to see a continuation of them not being able to run the ball. You know, the Raiders have struggled through 2 games. Jenti has not had his breakout game yet, and I don't want that to be on us. You know, we always tend to allow people to have their best game ever on us in previous years. So hopefully that that curse is gone. You know, and we'll be able to kind of show up and stop the run like we did in week 1. Also, you know, I want to see the offense, you know, just be an offense, move fluently. I want to see, you know, Terry McLaurin, you know, get his share of opportunities and, you know, get his numbers up. I want to see, you know, I want to see Bill, of course, you know what I mean, potentially get around 100 yards, you know, just to be effective. I don't think that, you know, we should force Jaden out there. You know, so I'm comfortable with him sitting out this game and kind of reevaluating. But we'll see what the news is, you know, a little bit later today. But if Marcus is at the helm, like I said, I'm fully confident that he can go out and win this game for us. And just, you know, overall, just wants to see us kind of get our swag back, kind of be, you know, the team we were last year. I just feel like through 2 games, we kind of fell off slightly, and you know, we got to get it back. That's all. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the keys to the game, defensively, we kind of got to get out of, you know, kind of got to flush that last game and kind of just got to play a little bit better. I feel like the defensive line kind of has to reestablish the line of scrimmage. We can't let Jenti get off, and we have to contain Geno, and not let him get out of the pocket. We just got to keep him as a pocket passer. And don't let him, you know, try to get away. He's not really looking to get away, but he can kill you if he does get away. And I think we'll be fine from a defensive standpoint. I feel like, you know, the secondary has to find their swagger that they had in week 1, where it was like, you know, a no-fly zone. We got to kind of get back to that. And, you know, we got to lock in. And just like Joe Witt Jr. said, you know, do the little things. It's the small details. You know, have your eyes where they need to be and just trust it. Trust the call. Whatever the call is, play that call, and I think we'll be fine. And then offensively, I feel like the offensive line has to galvanize this team. We have to be able to run the ball. So Cliff Kingsbury, that means we have to have more than, well, how many carries was it total last week? 8 carries total?
Between both? Something like that.
Yeah, we have to have more than
around
that.
like 10 or something. Yeah.
Kind of got to be a little bit more balanced offensively, and we can't let Maxx Crosby go crazy because he has a relentless motor and he doesn't stop. He doesn't get tired. He's like the Tasmanian devil. He does not get tired. He's going to keep coming. So we're going to have to, pause on that, what I just said. But we have to make sure that we're chipping him. We're kind of like, getting him, off task. We kind of did that a few years ago when we played them before. So we kind of got to have that kind of same mentality. We got to help Connolly. Like, he has to work through this. You know what I mean? We brought him in here for a reason. There's no reason to shut the door on him now and want to go to other guys. He has to develop and become the the right tackle that we know he can be and the right tackle that he was drafted to be. Then wide receiver.
Just have to. Go ahead. My bad.
No, I was going to say the wide receiver.
Go ahead. I'll wait till you finish.
I was going to say the wide receiver groups, they have to get open. We have to get some type of separation. I want to see a little bit more out of our tight ends. Zach has been in the fold the last 2 games, but I need to see a little bit more. I'm expecting Kostanyankov to kind of get a little bit more reps this week, so I'm happy to see what he can do. And Sanat, it's still out on you. So, but I'm moving on to Kostanyankov at this moment in time. And guys like Jalen Lane and others had to step up. Noah Brown being out, so other guys are going to get more reps. Chris Moore's, he was signed to the active roster, so he's moving up off the practice squad. So, we got to do it. It can't just be Terry and Debo. We need help from others to kind of sustain drives and things of that nature.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, this just was a report that came out right here. We just brought it up on the screen that Jaden Daniels has not been spotted at practice, signaling that it is unlikely he will be recovered from his knee sprain in time to start on Sunday. Mariota is in line to start. So there's been a series of tweets come out about this. Also, Ben Standig just tweeted that Noah Brown and John Bates are not spotted at practice as well. So we'll, stay tuned to more news on that. Just as Grant mentioned, even if Jaden isn't cited today, it doesn't mean that he won't play Sunday. But this is just the latest around the situation, and we'll see. And like we mentioned, I think Marcus is definitely capable of getting us a victory and being able to run this offense fine. But this is what just dropped. Any comments?
I don't have any really comments to say on this. What did they say on the Instagram side?
Let me see. Instagram is saying Mariota is starting, fellas. OTF. Dan Snyder used to force RG3 when he wasn't 100%. That's not what we're going to do anymore. Mariota week. Kate, shout out Kate. Kate, I want to publicly thank you for your donation. We greatly appreciate your generosity to us, to ReedieAndZee. It's always love, and thank you for being a great supporter to us. And it was definitely heartfelt when we saw that come through. I told Reedie, I'm like, man, Kate loves some ReedieAndZee. So she also mentioned, I saw in the DM, she mentioned that her family watches us. So that, that's definitely heartfelt as well. Because what we do it. It takes a lot of effort, work, a lot of curse outs from our respective wives or whatnot, because we got responsibilities as well. But to kind of, for, people that watch us and view us to see the work that we put in and appreciate it and, be generous to us in a way, thank you. We greatly appreciate it. It does not go unnoticed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But that's it really they just start talking about the Jaden situation. Asking why we keep getting beat by tight ends. Hopefully Bowers don't eat against us. Somebody commented, okay, there's Grant, but where's Danny? But yeah, we need to get back to our up-tempo offense. It's a lot of a lot of little comments on the protect 5 at all costs. So yeah, so a lot of the fan base is on board with sitting Jaden this week, if need be, and I think that's the consensus because it just doesn't make sense to force our our asset out there like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It doesn't, and I foresee in my crystal ball, I think he's going to sit out next week versus Atlanta as well. There's no need to rush him back. Like we said, right now we're in week 3. We need him for the long haul of the season. It's a long season, 17 games. We're trying to get to the playoffs. We're trying to go deep in the playoffs as we went last year. So there's no need to rush it, and force anything right now when we got a capable backup that can go in and win us a couple games down the stretch, because we got to just stay competitive. And when he's ready to come back, bring him back, kind of learn from our mistakes in years past. And I think they have a good plan and they know what they want to do. And I think they stick to their plan and they're not swayed or, wavered on that. So I think we'll be fine in that light. And as the other players, that's not Jaden, the same thing for them. We brought in guys to kind of replace them, and guys that are lower down on the depth chart, they just have to step up and come ready to play. Now this is your opportunity. You know what I mean? Hey, sometimes some of the best players get on the field and then they don't come off the field because of an injury. The GOAT, Tom Brady. Look what happened with Bledsoe, and Tom Brady is history. So take advantage of your opportunity. You don't know when your next one's coming.
Yep. So yeah, anything else?
No. But if you haven't already done so, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification above so you can get other informative videos such as this edition of Friday Command. Tune into us this coming Monday for Monday Command. We'll talk about what happened in the game Sunday, as well as look for our post game live after the game Sunday. And We are also doing a live stream this Sunday during the game where we have chosen not to go to the stadium. So we'll be here at ReedieAndZee Field. We'll live stream the game and, just tap in with us and, just comment. And, hopefully we have a lot to cheer about this coming Sunday. Also, be on the lookout for our collaboration with the Burgundy Breakdown each and every Wednesday around 9:45 with Juan Gotti talking sports and John from the Ballin' and Burgundy podcast and yours truly, ReedieAndZee, as we are on our journey to build that channel as well. But until the next time we talk to y'all.
Hold on 1 second. We're gonna do our sponsorship real quick, and then we're gonna end the show. Yo, what's up? This is Z, ReedieAndZee here. I'm here to do a sponsor shout out to our new official sponsor, Elite Locks. If you're looking to boost your winnings, Elite Locks have you covered. They put in the research to handpick the best plays so you don't have to. Whether you're trying to make a quick flip or play the long game with high stake bets, they got packages for every bettor. The best part, you're not just getting plays, you're getting expert advice to help you maximize your returns. Once you grab a package, just shoot them a screenshot in their DMs and they will send you over access to your plays. We're rocking with Elite Locks for a reason. Tap in with them and let's make money together. As always, gamble responsibly. If you need help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Elite Locks. All right. We are out.
ReedieAndZee show. It's the ReedieAndZee show.